We are now about to segue into the last panel of the day. It is called Are We Sitting on the Solutions Already? And in this panel, we have some excellent company, as we have all day. We will be seeing some familiar faces that have already taken the stage. We will invite back Anni Pattila from Suovarten Somessa, the Digital Youth Initiative from Finland. We will also have Maria Rún Bjarnadóttir, that has also taken the stage today, from the National Police Commissioner of Iceland. Welcome back to the stage. Heading this very panel is Johanna Vähku, who has also taken the stage earlier today. So we have 3 familiar faces. However, we will be joined by 2 people on link. They are Kjartan Sverdrup Larsen. He is the head of government relations for TikTok in Norway and in Iceland. In this role, he engages with stakeholders in politics and civil society to discuss topics related to minor safety, women's safety online, data security, and privacy, to name a few. He also established partnerships with organizations to educate the public on topics such as mental health and digital literacy. Welcome, Kjartan.
Thank you.
And last but not least, we have Cindy Southworth. She is a global expert in technology and domestic violence, currently serving as the head of women's safety at Meta. In this role, she develops policies and tools to enhance women's safety online, focusing on issues like non-consensual image sharing and providing resources for women leaders, journalists, and abuse survivors. She also oversees the Global Women's Safety Expert Advisors Group, which works on safety improvements across Meta's platforms. Welcome, Cindy.
It's great to be joining you.
I will now hand the stage over to Johanna.
Thank you very much, Tordis. So today we have heard a lot about what is actually happening online to women and girls, and now we actually know a lot more about also the perpetrators, which is what I think is often missing from the conversation about online abuse. But the purpose of this last panel of the day is, if possible, supposed to create at least a sense of hope in solving some of these issues. And so I want to really start with talking about what kinds of tools we have at our disposal at the moment to combat online abuse. And at that, I'm gonna turn this to Cindy and Kjartan. But first, I want to just mention something that Anni said earlier today when Suovarten Somessa made a survey of kids and their experiences online, and 79% of them actually said that I believe there are several solutions to online abuse, and only 2% said that they don't believe there's anything we can do to eradicate online abuse or cyberbullying. So firstly, I want to turn the discussion to the platforms. So I want to ask you, Kjartan, first, and then Cindy to follow. What are your platforms, namely TikTok and then Meta platforms? What are you doing to combat online abuse of women and girls at the moment?
We like to believe that we are doing a lot, but we can almost definitely do much more. And I'm hoping to discuss some more potential, get some input on solutions from the panel. But we invest heavily in trust and safety. That involves like moderation. We have AI that picks up on certain words. We have local moderation in place. We have settings for teenagers, our youngest users, that we don't allow direct messaging. Their account is set to private, etc. We also have family pairing and various other features. But I think it's also important to remember that we can do a lot on the platforms, but this is an issue that expands outside of platforms as well, because the mindset that you have on the platform is unfortunately something you have outside of the platform as well, if that makes sense. So we need to work closely with civil society, such as the ones on the panel, and other organizations as well, to come up with good solutions to make our platforms a safe space for all the users.
Thank you. And over to you, Cindy.
Thank you so much. Working to change cultural norms, working to change and end violence against women offline, online, on the street, in our workplaces, in every place that we live our lives is what really drew me to joining Meta. I had worked for 30 years in the nonprofit NGO sector, working to end gender-based violence before I joined the company 4 years ago. And one of the things that drew me to joining Meta was the work that we are doing to end intimate image abuse, and seeing how prevalent this was in all spaces, and how the company was really taking an industry-leading role in working to combat it. And so some of the things that we're doing, everything from reactive hashing, so that you only have to report an image once online on our platforms, and then we'll create a unique hash of it so that you don't have to keep reporting that same image over and over, to developing and funding StopNCII.org and its sister project, Take It Down, or .nicmic.org for people under the age of 18, which I'm going to guess, Maria, you've already talked about today. I'm based in Washington, D.C., so the day started at 2 a.m. my time, and unfortunately I missed parts of it. But I can chat a bit more about it if it hasn't been covered in depth.
You can actually, Maria, because we've sort of touched upon those, but not really in depth.
Okay, perfect. I don't want to be duplicative, but the way that StopNCII.org and TakeItDown.nicmic.org work is you go to those websites with your content, if you have it. So if you took some intimate images with perhaps a dating partner and you're worried they might show up on platforms, you go to that website, and on your device, so you never actually, the images never leave your device, you create a unique hash, which is a string of letters and numbers. And then the only thing that leaves your device is that hash, the string of letters and numbers. And TikTok is part of it. All of the Threads, Instagram, Facebook is part of it, Reddit, OnlyFans, all sorts of platforms are part of StopNCI.org. You can go to the website and see which companies are participating, and more are joining every day. But the hash is what leaves your device, not that sensitive imagery, because nobody wants to share content like that. It's very personal. So it's the private image or the private video stays on your device. The only thing that leaves is that string of letters and numbers, that hash. It's like a digital fingerprint. That goes to the nonprofit that runs this initiative. And then that hash goes to the current 12 participating platforms, including TikTok and the Meta platforms and a bunch of others. And then if your ex or somebody else tries to upload that image, there'll be a match. We'll review it the first time to make sure it truly is NCII and it's not somebody trying to censor a woman running for president, Congress, Parliament, and trying to misuse this incredible tool. Once we confirm that it is NCII, we'll note that in the data set so it doesn't have to be reviewed the next time. And then we'll block it and make sure it's not posted on our platforms. And so people can sleep better at night. And so for me, the success of it isn't just the number of times we block content, which is impressive. The success is people sleeping better at night and feeling that they've taken control of their imagery. So that for me is, we're doing all sorts of things, and I could talk a lot about how we're doing, nudity blurring, and we're doing all sorts of other cross-industry things, but I'm going to take a pause and turn it back to the panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I want to turn the discussion to you, Annie, because as we've heard today before, you are working with children and young people exactly where they are using the internet and social media. So What does this response from the representatives of the platforms sound to you? Does this represent the reality that you encounter when you work with young people and children? What is the picture that their experience paints to you about using the platforms?
I'm so glad you started the panel by addressing the platforms, because I've worked in violence prevention for the past 15 plus years in 3 different countries, and for the past 5 years with this Digital Youth Initiative. And sometimes I find that the conversation gets stuck in one of the, sort of at one end of the stage. I believe the solution to all this is trifold, right? So there are the perpetrators, who come from all different kinds of backgrounds. They are the teens who don't know, haven't gotten enough sexuality education, and they don't know they're hurting others. And at the other end of the spectrum, there are criminals who are seeking profit. There are adults molesting children online. Then at one end of the stage, there are the children and their guardians, educators, who should be educated more, who should know their rights online, who should have more digital safety skills. And then one end of the triangle there is the platforms. And that's what kids regularly bring up, as we heard in the previous presentation. And what we know from research is that platforms are doing a lot, but I think the industry standard is not where it's supposed to be. I mean, when there's a Finnish NGO called Protect Children, and they have been conducting groundbreaking research on Tor networks. They've so far surveyed 30,000 CSAM, child sexual abuse material users. And those users have told them that 70% of the users said they found child sexual abuse material online on surface web. So meaning social media platforms and pornography websites. And as we've heard here, it takes on Pornhub, for example, it usually takes about 15 reports to flag something and for something to be pulled down. So imagine if that is your child being abused on that platform. It's a massive effort to take illegal content down, and this is what we hear from kids as well. Their images are being shared still daily. So I'm really curious to be here discussing the solutions and hearing the platform sort of also hearing your ideas of how could we make the internet safer for our children.
I looked at this survey that you just mentioned from Protect Children, this organization, and indeed they found that these people, the people who actually engage with child sexual abuse material online, they actually themselves told the surveyors that they use, for instance, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, and Discord to search for or disseminate this kind of material. So they use the same platforms that children and young people actually use. So it's undeniable that child sexual abuse actually does happen on these platforms. And so in a way, these platforms are providing a venue for these actions. So what do you think from your work perspective needs to happen for this to stop on these platforms?
That's an excellent question. Well, we have a couple of principles that have been generated not by me or our project, but by international actors such as Safety by Design and Children's Rights by Design, and I think that could be a good start. Because, I mean, recurring phenomenon of the internet, right, is that it keeps evolving. New platforms come every day, and children especially jump on the newest, the latest, the most fun platform. So we can't say that, okay, like there's this Facebook that I joined when like, I don't know, dinosaurs roamed on Earth, and then, you know, I was on Facebook, and let's make Facebook as safe as possible. I think we need to have a stellar industry standard that leverages the playing field for everyone. So there needs to be enough regulation, enough legal and financial incentives for platforms to create a safe digital environment for all of us, not just children, but especially the children, right?
Is there something you guys remotely would like to comment on this? Cindy and Kjartan?
Definitely. I'll jump in and I think we both have things to say on this. I mean, it's something we are deeply committed to. And when it comes to safety on our platforms, we are, constantly working to stay one step ahead, or, ideally 10 steps ahead of bad actors. And it is an ongoing issue. We recently, and just a few months ago, announced a strategic network disruption. We removed 63,000 Instagram accounts in Nigeria affiliated with the Yahoo Boys, and they were trying to do financial sextortion scams, and we removed them. And then we also announced, we've been working with the Technology Coalition for years, which is a cross-industry signal sharing initiative. And we recently added sextortion signals to that to make sure that we're disrupting criminal activity at its source and making sure that as many technology companies as possible are benefiting from the signals we observe. We share those signals with other tech companies so that we're, again, disrupting those behaviors and those actors across companies, because there is no competition in safety. All of the companies are working together behind the scenes just to disrupt that behavior. We also have, tons of things that we're doing on platform, to surface help centers, articles, nudges, all of those things. But I'll pause and hand over the mic.
Yeah, no, and I agree with what Cindy said here. There's a lot of cross-platform collaboration, because this is a common goal for all of us, right? To combat this and to stop this. And we're also, when I listened in before the panel started, someone mentioned the AI thing where you can like nudify someone, right? So AI is also a important, difficult topic in this discussion as well. That technology is evolving extremely rapidly, and we try our best to keep up. But I have to admit, at least for my part, that it's difficult to keep along with the technology that we can't control off platform, if that makes sense. And but we have close relationship with the local law enforcement across the world and globe, where we report on content that's against our guidelines. The removal rate of content that violates our guidelines, that includes sexual abuse, etc. We publish that openly, and I think it's about 80-90% is removed before it's even reached the feed. And the remaining part is taken down within 24 hours. Ideally, it should be 100%, right? But it's nuances, it's context, and I'm gonna stop it there, and I hope to get some more input on what we could do better from the panel moving forward.
Thank you. We'll certainly get back into the technology solutions and also regulation, also AI, but I want to turn to Maria. So you are the head of internet safety at the Icelandic police, and you also wrote the law on image-based violence in Iceland.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you about both of those things, but firstly, could you just walk us through how the police in Iceland is investigating online abuse, online misogyny? Does that happen? Does it happen perhaps a bit more than I mentioned it earlier happening in Finland?
No, it's not a problem. Everything is absolutely perfect.
I thought so.
Yeah,
You
now we
solved
can all
everything.
go.
That's
Yes,
awesome.
yes. No,
Everybody just copy what Iceland is doing,
yes,
and then we'll be fine.
And it's just Control-Alt-Delete, and then you will have it. I mean, it's a prevalent issue. Iceland, of course, is a country with a huge deployment of strong internet connection. So you have 99% of the population has access to high-speed internet at any given time. You have a high literacy rate. You have all kind of the components for a society that uses the internet a lot. from the police side, so what was done in Iceland was that there was political interest in doing this better. So it was actually in the coalition platform, the government coalition platform, this was addressed, that they wanted to do something about this in 2017 rather than 16. So following that, there was political interest, and then I was, like you say, commissioned to draft the legal reform and also propose kind of targeted policy measures. And we have been implementing those in different spheres. So we have targeted information for offenders. We've run campaigns. We've set up a program so that you can seek assistance if you're worried about what kind of material you're consuming, or if you are viewing child abuse material, for example. You can go to the service and you can have help. So we're trying to kind of, make, on the demand side, so to say, try to work on it there. And then on the other side, we have a huge prevention campaign that has been rolled out. We have police officers that are active, community police officers, both on the internet, playing games, setting up a Discord server, being available on Instagram, and also going out to the schools. So we had 10 police officers, and it's not a coincidence, most of them were male. And most of them kind of wear a T-shirt with tattoos, and kind of we made an effort to make it so that these were men, police officers that did not kind of fall into the image of so we made an effort so that it was like a typical kind of big man, kind of policeman talking about soft things, because they're not soft, aren't they? Because they are really hard and difficult. So they visited over, I think it was thousands of children that they visited. And we've run a lot of preventive material. And then we kind of assessed how we investigate these cases. So we have trained, so every single police officer in Iceland has had training in how to deal with these kind of cases. We do this systematically in the foundational training at the police university. And also all police officers that work with investigation have had the opportunity to do training after they graduated. We changed the way that we investigate, so the protocols are taking shorter time. We have been taking a different approach to gather the evidence, for example, using different means in order to make the process go faster. And then we made a concerted effort to support victims. And a part of that, for example, was that Cindy gave training for all of the staff at women's shelters, for example. So kind of we've also been working just like as a bridging between different partners, and building partnerships. And like, for example, we have been collaborating with Pornhub. And it's a strange thing to have an email from David at Pornhub. Like, haven't seen you in a while, but it has really been helpful. So we have actually created a partnership with them that consists of us adding words into their list that triggers a reaction. And we have had people that were looking for something on Pornhub that triggered the notice that said seek help, and they sought help. So we actually have evidence of this working. So I think what we have learned in these 4 years that we have been working on this, or 3, nearly 4, is that if everyone helps out, if we have collaboration and we work on it systematically, we can actually get results. And we have results showing that young girls in Iceland are being asked less for nude images. They're experiencing less sexual harassment online. Boys are watching pornography okay, on average 1 month later, but that is something. So we are seeing positive signs, but we need to take them as an encouragement to continue, not to kind of say, well, it's all good, then this is not a problem anymore. We've already done it. So I think, but it was only possible because there was political interest. You know, at the end of the day, that's what it all comes down to. That you have to have buy-in from the relevant stakeholders. And I think also, in terms of the platforms, it used to be so that the police could not get any access to any information on any platform. It's only 10 years ago where we didn't even have a contact person for Facebook, which 95% of the adult population has an active Facebook account. But we could not reach them to have anything taken down. It was just like meeting a blind wall. And I think the companies that want to be taken seriously within the ecosystem, they have all changed their attitude. I mean, you have two of the biggest platforms in the internet ecosystem in the Nordic participating in this. This would never have happened 10 years ago. I mean, we couldn't have even found an email address to send the invite to. So I think that's also very important. And just the last point on the platforms, I think we as consumers, we have to take into account what platforms are behaving well and what aren't. So, for example, as a parent, looking up what platforms are collaborating in, for example, Take It Down or Stop NCII, and then feel assured that your child will be a little bit more safe there. And I'm not saying that they will be safe. I'm saying just like there are platforms that are making an effort, and we as consumers should kind of support that, because we also have these stakeholders that are not here in this room, and they never will be. And so there's always going to be abuse there.
Thank you. Yeah, Anni, do comment.
And if I may comment, I mean, I think it's so heartwarming to hear the developments that have been done in Iceland, and I definitely agree that it takes all of us to work on this together. Maybe one sort of a critical take I would have on the platforms is that I feel like, coming from the land of Nokia, I've grown up in a culture that reveres technology. We used to think it's like the best thing that happened to us until Nokia crashed, and then we all lost our money. But until then, it was splendid. And we sort of, I think that from there also stems this Finnish mentality that, hey, like when your kid goes to school at age 7, we'll give them a smartphone. And sort of, I feel like just in the recent years, I've come to view technology and these platforms as, I mean, they are part of our critical infrastructure, right? And I've started questioning like, hey, like, why don't we hold these amazing digital products to the same standard we hold other types of infrastructure too? Because with physical design, right, we would not accept that there's an elevator company that makes elevators that are hazardous to people, and they don't do any security safety testing before they launch the product, or they don't think that, is this product safe for minors to use? But this still happens with the digital products, right? We're all still learning and sort of developing the legal and, legal playing field, the regulatory playing field. So I feel like we are maybe letting the platforms like more slack them. We should maybe.
Yeah, we are, and we've done it for such a long time, you know. But I want to comment this, that there is actually some movement on the other side now. I mean, I'm honestly, like 10 years ago, I mean, that was the reason why people came and said, you know, they had their image shared. They went to the police, and police said, well, we can't do anything. Well, that was because they didn't have any access. You know, they literally could not do anything because the platforms wouldn't cooperate, and now they do. So that's why it's important for kind of our traditional democratic structures that platforms shoulder the responsibility. I'm looking at you.
Yes, I'm definitely gonna let you guys respond to all of that. I just want to mention that, you know, somebody should probably tell the Finnish police that you can actually contact the platforms about these issues now, because at least until very recently, from what I've heard, is that the police's kind of explanation as to why they haven't investigated something that happened on a social media platform is that they say that it would be too difficult to kind of track down the perpetrators if they were anonymous or under a false identity, and that they just couldn't talk to the platforms about this, which I think is
It's the
potentially
same
a
in
lie.
Iceland. Yeah. I mean, it's the same. I'm not saying that all cases are solved. Absolutely not. I mean, there's a lot of people that, maybe the abuser is using Proton Mail and they're using a VPN that is so strong that we can't track it. Abusers are very, very innovative, and, they take measures to kind of hide their trail. So absolutely, I mean, I don't want it to come off like we've solved everything, but it's just that we are always going to be lagging behind. That's the thing. So we just need to remember that, but still keep going. Because if we just stop and give up, the technology and the development will move so fast that we will be light years behind. So we have to kind of at least try to keep roughly, we have to stay in the same race at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to Kjartan and Cindy.
I just want to briefly put my NGO hat for one moment, since I was in the NGO sector for 30 years and founded a technology project back in 2000, 24 years ago. And my experience for those 24 years working in the nonprofit sector on a technology project is that so many abusers and stalkers and perpetrators don't use Proton Mail. They don't cover their tracks because they feel entitled and they feel that they're allowed to do these harms. And so I would encourage all of us that are part of this conference today to come together, cross industry, do that public-private partnership with academics, nonprofits, platforms, civil society, criminal justice, civil justice, and hold offenders accountable when they make deliberate choices to cause harm. Because in my 30 years of working in the nonprofit sector, so many offenders make really, really deliberate choices and get away with it with impunity. And it's not because they think, oh, it's not going to cause harm. Often they know it's going to cause harm and they make the decisions because of it, and they don't cover their tracks. They're not using VPNs. They're not using anonymizers. They do it under their own name, and they know they can get away with it because we're not coming together in a conference like today to make change. So I just encourage us to do what we're doing today and stop it.
Just to follow up with a very concrete question to you, Cindy, that if there's a person, an online abuser on a Meta platform, just simply using a false identity, but then if the police wanted to investigate this person, I'm sure these people when they actually create the account, they have to give you like a phone number and an email and stuff that you can then use to track who their real identities are. So would you cooperate with the police in a case like that?
We have a law enforcement portal, and whenever we have due process with legitimate legal requests coming in, as you can imagine, we want to make sure that we always follow legal process because we don't want, unsavory governments coming at appropriate user data inappropriately, so we always follow appropriate legal process. But we have a law enforcement portal, and we encourage all the law enforcement in the room and listening online to sign up through the law enforcement portal and request records whenever they need them, and we will cooperate because we want bad actors held accountable.
And all the same questions go to you, Kjartan.
On the law enforcement bit, of course, we collaborate with law enforcement, if the Finnish police believe that there is not there's some trouble reaching out to us, I will have my colleague reach out to the Finnish police and then set up a dialogue there. I was actually in Sweden a couple of weeks ago with a meeting with your Minister of Justice, not to discuss online abuse, but the issue of gangs on social media, etc. And the police there highlighted the strong collaboration between not just TikTok, but Meta and Google and Snapchat on how quickly we respond to requests from law enforcement, and it's yeah. So I forgot the first part of the question, but I hope if you can repeat it, then I can. But the Icelandic initiative, that sounded really impressive, and I'm hoping we can, next time I'm in Iceland, I hope we can have a meeting about what you have done and what we can learn from that as well, as a platform and as a Norwegian policy influencer, so to speak.
Wow, influencer.
Yeah. And I just wanted to mention that before I joined TikTok, or a couple of years before I joined TikTok, I worked at the Ministry of Equality in Norway, and when this was kind of a new topic then, unfortunately. But we had, then it was, Meta was basically the only platform, but we had really good and constructive meetings with your Norwegian colleague, Cindy, speaking as a former bureaucrat. Just wanted to mention that as well, that this has been a topic for both the companies and the regulators for several years.
I want to briefly go back to the issue of AI, and namely deepfakes, because we all know that the misuse of like intimate images is not really a new issue, but we now have this like very, very rapid evolution of these image generating apps, and this has really created like brand new opportunities for harassment and abuse online. So I'm talking about, for example, AI deepfake porn. There's research that 98% of all deepfake videos online are non-consensual porn. And obviously the targets here are girls and women. So how do you see it, both of you, Cindy and Kjartan, on your platforms? And especially a question for TikTok that I've recently read in some news that young TikTok video creators have become like a focus for this non-consensual pornographic deepfakes, and like the material is taken off TikTok, made into pornographic material, and then circulated on other platforms such as X.
That's a difficult and a good question. On the last part, we can't unfortunately control what others do with content off platform, but we have settings for teenage users that you can't download their content. And we also have implemented automatic detection and labeling of AI-generated content, not just, well, if it's online abuse and nudity, etc., it will be removed, but if it's normal AI content, so to speak, that will also be labeled as such. But it's, you can, I'm gonna tread lightly here because we don't want to, but we have settings for users on how others can use their content. You can switch off that you don't want others to download your content. That setting is default for our youngest users. And you can, I don't think you can override it if you are between 13 and 16. But that is an issue that you take, how should I put it, legitimate content on one platform, take it off platform, and then do something bad with it, and then put it on another platform where maybe there are less moderation and guidelines in place. So I don't think I have a answer with two lines under it on how to combat that, but we try to do a lot, but it's difficult to control what goes on off or our platform, if that makes sense.
And Cindy, would you like to touch on the topic of AI deepfakes?
I can talk about what we're doing on multiple fronts. We've been addressing what's sort of called synthetic or inauthentic, non-consensual intimate image abuse for since before I joined the company, and I joined in 2020, so long before it was sort of a trending topic, we've been addressing synthetic NCII, and that's just under our standard NCII definition. So we treat authentic and synthetic NCII the same under our adult sexual exploitation policy. So whether somebody is concerned about actual NCII or manipulated NCI, we will treat it the same under that policy. In addition, under our NCI policy, we also recently clarified that we also prohibit ads and services that promote or create NCI, what some people call nudify apps or services. So we don't allow ads for those or the promotion of services or apps that create it. So we'll remove those ads, we'll remove organic content where people are saying, hey, you can create you can nudify someone, because that is absolutely not allowed because it's creating NCII. And so we're working to remove that content anytime we're made aware of it. We're looking for it very, very aggressively ourselves, because as we all talked about how harmful that is. And then some other things that we have under our bullying and harassment policies, we have a policy that was sexually degrading photoshopped imagery. We're renaming that because, as you might imagine, anything called photoshopped dates us a little bit. So we're tweaking the title of that policy because we've had it for a few years now, and so we're just tweaking the title of it, but the heart of it, which is we know that there's sexually degrading imagery, and it's often gendered, and it's harmful, and it's beyond deepfake porn. And it can be just degrading and sexually harassing, and it tends to be targeted at women public figures, people running for office. And we want that policy to be broader than our NCI policy, because there's some criteria for NCI that are more narrow. And so the bullying and harassment policy is more broad. You don't have to be the person in the image to report it. It doesn't have a consent element. Anybody can report that content, and we'll remove it. So we intentionally have them separated because we want to be able to enforce them differently. And so we're trying to get at it in different ways. We also have policies around nudity, near nudity, sexual activity. So if somebody has used AI to create an image that is showing nudity or near nudity and blatant sexual activity, whether it's authentic or inauthentic, we're removing that content. And our classifiers for nudity actually tend to be some of our strongest classifiers and machine learning that we run. And so except for right after I joined the company, we accidentally took down a picture of Walla Walla onions, and that was an embarrassing moment that the news picked up on. But generally, they tend to be really strong classifiers, and they're catching the right content and removing it before anyone reports it to us, and before anyone sees it. So that's the ideal, is that we're removing harmful content before anyone sees it and reports it to us. So we're getting at this very complicated issue from a multitude of ways, but it is complicated, and we're striving every day to do better at it.
Thank you. Anni?
Actually, I had a question, if that's okay.
Sure.
I would be curious to hear what you think are the sort of lowest hanging fruits we could pick when it comes to technology and safety regarding image-based abuse and the abuse of children, because I come from the field of digital youth work, and some of the really simple questions our youth ask me are like, why can't TikTok get its moderation to actually work? Why don't reports work? Because at least in the minority language, I don't know if you recognize the same problem in Icelandic, is that if you say people use the N word, the slur, a lot on TikTok, and you just exchange one I with the number one, and it passes, like it doesn't evoke any of the triggers. Thank you. That's one question kids ask me every day. Another question is age limits, like why aren't age limits actually enforced, and why aren't there strict safety regulations? Say like, well, kids ask me every day, why can adult men contact me via private messaging? Because I'm just a kid. This is not supposed to happen. And maybe the third question is, that I get asked is, why are there so many anonymous accounts allowed that can spew hate and sexualizing content online?
Yeah, I was going to conclude the panel by asking, like, if you were the boss of the internet, like, what would you do? But maybe that's slightly too large, and maybe the lowest hanging fruit is something that we can actually reach in this sort of couple of minutes that we have left. So for me, I think the lowest hanging fruit would be that on Facebook Messenger, I would be allowed to set it so that strangers cannot message me just by knowing my name. Because for my middle-aged generation, Facebook Messenger is the place where the abusive messaging arrives. So why is it that an abuser only needs to know my name and doesn't even have to bother to like try and Google my email or something, you know, which might give them pause for thinking if it's, you know, smart to send me a message. But on Facebook Messenger, they only need to know my name and they can send me whatever they want. So why is there not a setting to prevent this? That's my lowest hanging fruit. I will let Maria answer that one as well, and then Cindy and Kjartan.
It's a hard one, isn't it? I've been thinking all the time that you were talking, and I'm not exactly sure. But I think it must be, especially when we're talking about AI and kind of the use of it, because technology, AI, platforms, anything, it is all run by people at the end of the day, you know. So it's not only about the regulatory framework, it's also about the normative framework and the cultural framework. And I think, again, like being a lawyer, saying that is counterproductive. But no, it's not counterproductive. I think it's productive. Because
You have 10 seconds.
so if you know, we need to change the person that takes the legitimate images and uses the technology to turn it into something else. That's the person we need to be focusing on, not the people that are innocent and just trying to live their life and use their rights and have fun.
Exactly. And then concluding remarks from Kjartan and Cindy. Both of you have about half a minute.
I can go first and to address the questions about moderation, etc. It's difficult because teens, they develop new slang, new language. We're always playing catch up with that, and we have human moderation in place. I don't have the Icelandic number at the top of my head, but when I'm in Iceland, I'll give it to you. But we invest heavily in moderation. That's an important subject for us, and with the age verification, etc., we do a lot to keep minors off the platform. We have a 13-year-old age limit. Each quarter, we remove around 20 million accounts that we suspect to be under 13. But I don't have. Now I think I have 5 seconds left, and that's not enough time to discuss all the pros and cons of age verification. But that's a really important discussion as well. That should be a panel on its own.
And I'm going to send everybody to our Meta Safety Center, which is safety.meta.com, where you can learn all about changing your messenger settings so that only friends of friends can send you messages and not strangers. And also you can learn about our new on-device nudity controls, where you can learn about how already only teens can contact teens on Instagram, and then even with adults, if you don't follow someone on Instagram, they can only send you text, not images or videos, so that prevents cyber flashing, and we get my feminist cat decided to show up. But about safety.meta.com has all the tools, all the features, our intimate image abuse, stop NCI, takeitdown.nicmic.org, and so many more things. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much. I'm afraid we have to conclude the panel here. I thought we would have had time for questions, but we do not. So, Tordis, you probably want to say some last words for this conference.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. What a panel. What a discussion. What a day. It really, truly has been an amazing day. We aim to make the recording of the entire event accessible online at nordjef.org. And it wouldn't have been possible, of course, without the support of the Erasmus Plus program, the Nordic Gender Equality Fund, the University of Gothenburg, where we currently are, and last but not least, our incredible speakers. Today, we have heard how much children and youth crave adult presence online and tell us how it helped them deal and heal after online abuse. We've heard about big tattooed policemen talking about soft things. We've analyzed perpetrators and discussed how much of online abuse is deliberate and how much of it is due to insufficient communication and emotional skills. We've learned about an eggplant that invites users to chat about nude pics and how they feel about them. We've had the pleasant experience of being photobombed by Cindy Southworth's cat. We've unpacked the role of toxic masculinity in all of this. And we have looked back in time to when women who had a voice and who claimed space in the world were burned as witches. And I would like to think that today's game changers are the descendants of the witches that they didn't manage to burn. So thank you so much, everyone, for contributing to today's magic. On behalf of the Game Changer Project, we are only beginning. We have received some more funding to make some more noise. So stay tuned. As the fight continues, we will ride at dawn. Thank you.